Hello. How you doing, Paul?
Yes, I'm good. How are you?
Good to see you again here on my show, and thank you very much for being here on my show. So,
thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. So, what are you going to see now? What are you going to hear?
Okay, this next song is a reggae song that I wrote a while ago. It's called Amanece.
Perfect. So, whenever you're ready,
Thank you, Borna.
Jason! Hello! How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
That's a very good question in such a crazy situation that we are dealing and we're struggling with here in Melbourne, Australia is just quite disaster. But yeah, we're just trying to be okay. So I've been really good. So I've been really busy with my live show here on Instagram and talking to lovely people like you. And yeah, so I've got lots of questions here for you. So would you like to say hi to those who are watching us now and later?
Hello to everybody who's tuning in now and who's going to join us later.
Okay, great. Perfect. So, all right, I'm so glad I'm having you here on my second season. So, all right. So I just remember when I was a little boy, the first comic book I saw was Tintin and Milo. And it was very interesting for me because the feeling that I got actually from that book was more like a movie than just seeing a bunch of pictures and text below them. So tell me about you. When was the first time you saw a comic book, and explain to me about its how it affected on you or influenced on you?
The first comic book that I saw was a collection of the first few issues of Spider-Man. And I just, that's a good question. I'm trying to remember the feeling I had. I mean, I always loved art. I always responded to cartoons and to illustrations and to caricature. I got my caricature when I was little, and it felt like magic. And so to see this book where it was just pages and pages of art and every panel was a drawing and that's how you tell the story, that was incredible to me. And when I found out that this was a job that people could have, also I always wanted to be a comic book artist. It was just amazing.
Okay, all right. So do you know what that was actually I was thinking about, I would just Google it and I couldn't find my answer. So do you know why something like a comic book came into the world?
Yes. So the comic book originated as comic strips, right? The funnies in newspapers. And so you would have just the 4-panel strips, 3-panel strip. But they started to be collected. So, you know, it was in the early 1900s, but the equivalent of like Peanuts or Calvin and Hobbes or whatever, where they have those collections now. It was a collection of a bunch of those, and people were really loving them. Kids were really just eating them up, and so a publisher decided to print original material in that book form. And so they're called comic books because comic like the funnies, because they come from the funnies from newspaper strips.
Okay, so like years ago, am I right?
This was at the turn of the 20th century.
Okay, so you don't still remember what was the book that you were looking at when you were little?
Oh, the book I was looking at when I was little I was looking at Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, you mentioned. Okay, so I thought probably there's another one. So, okay, I talked to a lot of cartoonists and caricaturists on my show in season 1, and what I found is that their characters are different and somewhat similar to each other. They are often don't talk much and prefer to draw their words. Which one are you?
Yeah, I think that I feel a little anxious on camera. I'm bad at eye contact, but I love the best way I found to communicate is by putting words and pictures together. And so that's the most confident I am is on the page. But I'm learning because I'm doing these interviews for my book right now. I'm on a bit of a stay-at-home interview circuit, so I'm learning to, you know, enunciate my words and make eye contact. And how am I doing?
You're doing perfect. You're doing perfect. So, well, I think cartoonists and caricaturists actually see the world much differently than others. They see it more as probably as fancy and exaggeration. So how do you see the world?
You know, I feel pretty overwhelmed by the world. I just looking around, I feel sometimes like it's all so much. I think that the thing that was always appealing to me about cartoons was that it takes less information in, if that makes sense. So things are simplified or distorted, but I early on gravitated toward black and white comics because when you take color out of the picture, all of a sudden you can focus on fewer elements. And so, and with my work too, when I'm drawing somebody's portrait, it's like taking all of the information in real life and thinking, what are the things that are just essential to show who this person is? And so it's as much about what is left out as what actually exists.
Okay, well, that's interesting. Yeah, because I've spoken with lots of them, and we are very similar. You guys are very similar. And now I want to take you back to years ago, and when you just realized your interest in cartoon and caricatures. So tell me about the beginning, from the beginning. I mean, so what happened? Talk to me. Tell me.
What did happen? My mother and my grandmother are both really good at drawing. And when I was a little kid, it just felt like magic watching them draw. I remember that I had a t-shirt with Sonic the Hedgehog on it. And I really loved this t-shirt, and my grandmother made a drawing of it. And it looks like the t-shirt. And I freaked out. I was like, you can do that? And so I always loved to draw. And at first it was because I wanted to draw, you know, Pokemon and Sonic and just all of the cartoon characters that I loved. But then one time I was in the Chicago airport with my mom. We were stranded for a few hours. We missed our flight, and there was a caricaturist in the airport, and we got our caricature done. And then that was amazing. After that, all I wanted to do was draw people's faces. And for a while, that's what I was doing a lot of. And I started reading Mad Magazine. I really loved Mad. And so I would copy the art in there, and I felt really inspired by it. And I don't know, I always loved art. I always loved making things. I always loved drawing. And my family was very encouraging. They signed me up for classes, and yeah.
What do you need to have to be always updates about what you're doing? I'm more interested to know, like, what are those elements are? What do you need to do to be always updated?
I mean, in some ways, the work that I'm trying to make is not aggressively timely. Like, a lot of the cartoons I make would be jokes that would work in the 60s, 70s. You know, so I'm often chasing something that is timeless. And also, so many of the artists I love drew 50, 100, 200 years ago. But sometimes I do political cartoons, and so I guess I'm up to date for that stuff. And I just try and be a better noticer in the world. I mean, I think that that's, after just developing the skill set of moving your hand and using the tools, I think being able to actually look and to notice is one of the most important, if not the most important component of being a cartoonist.
Okay. So, and why are all your works black and white?
I work in color occasionally, but it is my preference to work in black and white because like I said, I feel very easily overwhelmed, and it helps me to focus. It feels like it helps me to see. Like, I prefer to watching movies that are in black and white for the same reason.
Talk to me more about that. It was not enough.
About black and white. All right. Well, I'm going to have to think more about black and white, too. I mean, what I love in other people's art also is to be able to see how the hand moves, right? You can see sometimes when people drew and it's kind of shaky, or when it's kind of quick, you can see the confidence. And so I also find that in black and white, it's easier to see the decisions that an artist makes, and that's something that really attracts me to this medium.
Okay, I got it. So, and you were living in California previously, or where were you living? Why did you move to New York? Because of your work? Is there like better opportunities for you to live in New York, or another was another reason?
I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and I'm too anxious for Los Angeles. It's very chill, laid back, Hollywood upbringing, and I went to college in Connecticut, and all of my friends from college moved to New York after school, so I moved with them. I can do my work from anywhere.
Of course, that's what I was going to say. Well, you don't need to live in like such a crazy and expensive city like New York, and
Yeah.
just okay. So, well, I would like to talk to you about the book that is going to be published actually in June. Everything is an emergency. And one of the most interesting things I know about this book is that you used your personal experiences in this book. And tell me why personal experiences first, and what are you going to tell the viewer through this book?
Oh, okay. Well, so this is the cover of the book. Everything is an emergency. An OCD story in words and pictures. And this
okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, please.
No. OCD. Okay, so okay, tell me. You tell me.
Okay, so I started this book because I was really working on my obsessive compulsive disorder. I was in recovery, so I was in therapy. I was trying to unlearn some of the unhealthy things that I learned, and in order to sort of just keep focused on what I was doing and to keep myself honest, I started drawing stories about that. And when I started drawing stories about that current moment, this was in 2018 that I began this project. And when I started telling that story, all of a sudden the story had to stretch back to my childhood, and it had to encompass all of these different periods in my life. And so this book felt really natural to make because it's something that I understand quite well, which is my own anxieties.
Right.
And eventually it turned into a project that feels like a letter to my younger self and a letter to anybody who might be first finding out that they have OCD.
Yeah, I know some people around me actually who are struggling with OCD, but you're using it in a very proactive way. Am I right? It's just drawing those experiences.
Yeah, well, the thing about OCD is that it can be really invisible. And so a lot of the stuff I'm drawing is stuff that is just happening in my head that nobody else could really see. And I was afraid that when other people with OCD read it, they might go, this has nothing to do with my experience. But I've had a lot of good conversations with people who have OCD and who have said, this feels authentic to how I experienced OCD also. And so that's been really great.
Okay, and what's called Everything is an Emergency? Where does the name come from?
It's called Everything is an Emergency. I made this book way before we were in a global pandemic. However, the title it starts out as a genuine feeling and ends up as a bit more of an ironic feeling. Because the point is that having OCD can mean that even the smallest things feel like huge emergencies, and there's no telling. It's like danger is always lurking right around the corner. And I thought that the way to recover was to stop feeling like anything is dangerous. But in fact, what I learned on my recovery journey is more that you can feel like things are scary sometimes, and that's okay if you get the tools to deal with it. And sometimes you can even make fun of yourself for feeling that way. And so this book was a little bit about that. And so by the end, it's like, yep, well, everything is an emergency.
All right, fair enough. And also, I know you're part of the collection website called Brick House, and I know you're currently actually fundraising. So, talk to me about it and how can people help? Is that something related to this book, or it's in general? Talk to me about that. I didn't have, unfortunately, much time to go through everything, so I thought it's better to when I'm having you here, you're just gonna talk to us about it.
Oh yeah, thank you for asking me. So the Brick House is new. It's not related to this book I put out, but it is related to a publication that I have made comics for in the past called Popula. So Maria Bustillos, who started Popula, wants to start this cooperative of different websites. So we've all joined together, and we're gonna share the money, and we're going to not have ads, and we're going to not be funded by any billionaires. The point is that we all love all of these websites, The Outline, Deadspin, these websites, Gawker, that just disappear because one really rich person has decided that it's no longer in their interest for them to exist. And so,
good point.
Yeah, so Maria wanted to make something that she calls wolf-proof media. She talks about people like big bad wolves coming by and trying to blow down all these houses, all these websites. So we're the Brick House. We can't be blown down, and that's because we're a collection of people who all are owning this together. And so we're not going to take money from one person who can decide this lives and dies, or three people. So we're fundraising right now, and we're going to use the money that we make to get off the ground. And my job is I'm going to be an editor, which I'm really excited about, because
okay, sorry, I'm interrupting you. So what does editor do? Like editing, what do you mean by I'm an editor?
I mean that I am talking to a bunch of my favorite cartoonists and some incredible writers and illustrators, and I am asking people for specific pieces. I'm coming up with ideas for features, and I am taking pitches from cartoonists. And it's really exciting because as much as I love to write and draw, and I really do, I also just love the world of comics so much. And so to get to have a little bit of a budget and to get to publish other people and to just be in this world and help artists who maybe haven't published that many pieces yet, or to talk to people about making work that looks different than other work they've made, or even to just publish people who I think more people should be looking at, is just really exciting.
Okay, now I understand. So it's a kind of the organization, and you're just collecting or like selecting those who are quite creative, particularly in your field, and then you're trying to fundraising through the website as if I Kickstarter, which I advertise already on my page because I want to help. Also,
yeah, thank you.
You're welcome, and also I want people to know about that. So, tell me about how can they help? How can they participate of that? So they have to go to Kickstarter, and what they need to do. What's the next step? So what do they need to do? Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, if you go to Kickstarter and you type in the Brick House, we'll come right up, and you can look at that, and you could, every little bit. Oh, sorry, I don't know what that sound was.
That's okay.
Every little bit of donation really helps us. I was doing the math. I have 72,000 Instagram followers. If every one of my followers gave 50 cents to our Kickstarter,
exactly,
we would be over our goal. And so, yeah, I published a lot of work for free on Instagram over the years, and I really love to do it. And this feels like my way to ask, hey, if you've liked my cartoons for a long time, you can just click on this link. It's also in my Instagram bio, and you can give a little money to this, and then I will make this website that you can subscribe to, and you can see all of these new amazing cartoonists who I really love.
Exactly. Not the only cartoonists. So there are like a bunch of really creative people in different fields. You can find it through the Kickstarter. I was fundraising for my project from one of my first feature film, actually back in 10 years ago when I was living in Los Angeles.
Oh,
So,
yeah?
yes, back in 2012. So I was living in West Hollywood and Calabasas, and anyways, and then all right. So now I want to change the atmosphere. I want you to show us something. So I've made an agreement previously. So I want you to take us to your privacy a little bit and reverse the camera and just give us a tour. So and see what you got there.
Okay.
The other way.
Here we are. Well, first of all, this is my
The other way.
Oh, this way.
Yes. All right.
Here we are. All right. This is where I draw. But the special thing that I wanted to show you all was this is the same thing as what I love about doing the brick house, is that I get to have with me this artwork from all of these cartoonists I really love. So this is my friend Annalise, and I wrote this piece, and Annalise illustrated it, and I love it so much, and so they're hanging on my wall now. And this is my friend Julia Rothman. We made a piece together, and she drew me for the piece, and so there I am.
Hello.
And this is my friend Eli Dreyfus, who's beginning to make these beautiful prints. And he gave me one.
Is that a painting or is that a print? What's that one?
This is a print. He gave this to me yesterday. It's really beautiful. Yeah, so I feel really lucky to get to have all of this art to collect.
Where are you going? Go back. I want to. It was very quick. So go back to your desk, and show us some of your stuff over there.
Oh, okay. All right. So, welcome to the studio. Here's the drafting table. Here is the keyboard that I play sometimes. Here's a nice little chair and some books. And under my desk, I got boxes full of cartoons. So here are a bunch of old cartoons, and some newer ones.
Is that your work?
Oh yeah, this is my work. These are American political cartoon, because the center here is not really the center.
That's very interesting. Oh, okay.
So it's kind of
well, what
R-rated.
is that? What is that about? What's that one about?
This one right here?
Yeah.
This is something that my grandfather taught me, that comedians, when they were profane, it used to be called working blue.
Uh-huh.
So I was just thinking about Picasso's blue period, but somebody's blue period being them just being inappropriate.
That's interesting.
Let's see what else I got here.
Show us. What's the underneath? Yeah.
There's Dolly's Apple Watch. What else do we have? Not too much else.
So tell me, do you use paper and pen in nowadays, or do you use like the different software to scratch your cartoons?
Oh yeah, well now I use a tablet, so I can show you that too if you want.
Sure. Yeah, I want. Show me.
Okay.
Please.
All right. Let's see. It's going to be interesting to both look at this tablet and draw.
Can you draw me?
Yeah.
Can you do it now?
Yeah. That sounds good.
Let's do it.
Okay. You can ask me questions while I draw too. I love to multitask.
Can I move?
Let's see.
No.
I mean, honestly, the hardest part is going to be being able to, properly film while I'm doing this.
And okay, so this device actually makes your work probably much easier in combine.
Yeah, it makes it quicker, because the other thing is that I have the digital file at the end of it. So I would do something like this, but then I would take the opacity way down. So up here, I'm doing that. And then I'll put another layer on top, so that can be, the sketch layer. This is an interesting challenge.
That's very interesting, and keep doing it. I love it, actually.
Yeah, of course.
He looks far more handsome. I like that. So is it easy to make money through what you're doing as a cartoonist, or the competition is quite high, particularly where you live in New York?
I'd say that America is not great at subsidizing the arts, which so you lived in LA. How did you find it? How did you find being a creative person in Los Angeles?
No, being honest with you, I I didn't like much LA. I didn't get I mean, I can't generalizing like that, but it depends on where you live in Los Angeles, because I was very confused. For somebody like me who's been living in Australia for years, over the past 16 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm used to taking public transport everywhere. I didn't have a car before I moved to LA in 2012.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite challenging because I had to wait for a bus. Like when I wanted to go to Beverly Hills, I had to wait for 3 hours. And if you miss it, so you miss it for a whole day. And,
That's awful.
and that's awful. So, and then, I didn't mind. I think, and I keep moving. Like I moved to West Hollywood later on, and then, I liked West Hollywood. I found it's more creative. It's much easier to access to the things that I was looking for. And also, apart from that, because I dreamed to go to live in America. But apart from that, what I was thinking about America, I was more probably fantasizing rather than just being realistic about the kind of lifestyle that I was going to experience in the States. And the other things that I found it actually has been quite challenging was competition. As a filmmaker, so I've been working in the film industry over the past 20 years, and as a filmmaker, I've found it was quite challenging. And we're in the Sunset Boulevard where I used to live, very close to Sunset Boulevard, it was quite every single cafe or restaurant I used to go, all workers or employees were somehow involved in the film industry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
here's a little doodle of you.
And also, yeah, and when I had a conversation with a few of them, they've said, well, we've been working in the film industry, and show me what happened. Show me. That's cute. Where is my name? And please write it down and please send it to me. I love to put it on my Instagram.
Yeah.
And
wait. Okay. Honestly,
I love it.
Let's do this. Can we keep talking? But I'll just
I'll
be facing this way, and I'll be drawing you.
Yes. And I think people are really interested to see it at the end. So.
Yeah.
And and I found it was quite challenging. And those who I had a conversation with back years ago, so they were living in America over the past few years, and they couldn't get anywhere, because film industry in Los Angeles, Hollywood, it's like a gang things, you know what I mean? Like you have to know somebody if you want to get into the industry, like anywhere else. But because the competition is quite high in Los Angeles, and everyone wants to become like famous, and this and that. I said probably, well, it's better to move on, and I moved to somewhere else. I moved to Dallas. Oh my God. I didn't like Dallas at all.
No?
And no, it was quite boring for me, because as I've said, like, because if you're living in Australia, you have access to lots of things, and the life is happening outside of the places rather just inside the places. And, particularly here where I live in Melbourne. Anyways, and then I moved to Seattle, and I loved Seattle actually. I found it was quite fascinating, and people are like different, and I really loved it. So I can see myself that I live in Seattle if I don't have any other choice. And also, I've traveled to America a few times, and each time I keep missing to like take a visit New York City
Yeah.
and also San Fran. And this is on my list. These cities are on my list that I definitely want to, when I go back to America, I want to do it again. So another question I've got for you is for being a good cartoonist or do you need to know really much about drawing and painting, or it all comes with like practice over time?
Great question, and I think it just depends on what you're going after. Like I would compare it to, like punk rock guitar players might not necessarily be great guitarists, right? But they can write amazing songs that come from the heart. And there are a lot of artists who maybe aren't classically trained and might not have the skill set to draw like Leonardo da Vinci, but can make amazing comics. It does help to study the conventions of drawing because then you have more tools, The more you know, the more you can choose to use or not.
Okay, absolutely, absolutely. And what's the most challenging things for you as a cartoonist, apart from like competition, like the things like that? But what's the other things that you usually struggle with? Is it like a funding, or is it? Talk to me about that.
I think that a big challenge is to really be honest with my work because as you do this for years, you kind of develop shortcuts and you know how to draw something that feels like, how do I put it? I just think that at this point I could maybe make art that's about my life, but it's not things that I'm really thinking about or feeling. And it can be really vulnerable to actually make work that is specific to my experience. It can be scary, but I think that, the challenge is always being honest and always being open.
Well, I was born in Iran. I'm from Iran. So in Iran, cartoonists have not much rights. The reason is that, America, Australia, or wherever else, like we're living in the first world countries and you have a freedom of speech. Somewhere like in the Middle East or Middle Eastern countries, you don't have that freedom. You cannot like start making a fun or like have a comic book about politicians or governors in Iran. You will be arrested. I've spoken with 3 or 4 like really famous and well-known Iranian cartoonists who's called Manan Yestani and also Tukan Yestani. They're extremely famous. They're international cartoonists and they have to leave Iran. And there are many others that they had to leave Iran because there's not freedom of speech, and you cannot do the things that you want, and because the consequences is like they put you in the jail, which there's no place for any artist or anybody really. And in America, I know the cartoonists like caricaturists also struggle sometimes if they're like go over it, if they want to just like make like go over it through what they draw, regarding of politicians or governors. And have you ever experienced such things like that and people slash you back, you know what I mean? And or have you experienced such things like this before?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that the job of the caricaturist is to make powerful people ridiculous. And so when you do that, you're going to have people upset with you. And so every once in a while, if I make a political cartoon, I'll have people who are upset about it. We'll talk on Instagram. But I also enjoy those conversations because they do get to be conversations. And because I get to, I don't know. I'm trying to think of if I've ever made work that was taken down or that led to serious danger or anything, and I haven't. I've just, I don't know.
Okay, I understand. And also what you're saying, the social platforms also, I'm assuming that the social platforms help you a lot to like show your work, to show your talent. Am I right?
They do. There's the double-edged sword of Instagram, of course, because I can post this work and people can follow me, but Instagram isn't going to compensate me for it. And so there are all these cartoonists who are benefiting Instagram a lot, and they're not seeing much financial compensation for that. So there's really a push and pull.
That's very understandable. Okay. You're done?
That depends on...
I want to see it.
Okay, yeah, that depends on if you want it to be have shading or not. I've decided that we're going to do some shading, so...
Okay, do it. Yeah, why not? Okay, do you have any question for me? You ask me some questions if you like.
Yeah, I've never been to Australia. What is the first thing that I should check out when I visit?
Kangaroos.
Yeah? Oh my god, that is a great answer.
Or koalas. Australia is like a free country. I'm so glad people complain that, Australia, that continent, it's not a country, it's actually a continent, really. It's a huge country. So, people complain it's far away to everywhere, and I'm so glad we are far away from everywhere. And because we don't get involved in the war, these sort of things, and because people said, well, don't bother, I'm not go that far, you know what I mean? But it's very peaceful and relaxing in our country, and plus it's quite young. The history is young, people, and there are like lots of people with different backgrounds and nationalities and languages are living in this country. For example, when you walk on the street, you hear Arabic, you hear French, you hear German, you hear Spanish, you hear American, English with American accent, English with English accent, Australian accent, and Japanese, like lots of people. You've got lots of options, like lots of restaurants, and as I've said, it's a very relaxing country, very, very relaxing country, and very peaceful.
I would love to relax one day.
No, not in New York, definitely not there.
Yeah, it is true that for being a very anxious person, it's interesting that I choose to live in New York City.
Okay.
But here we are.
Okay. You gotta go. Oh my god! I love this. Please send it to me. I'm gonna post it on my Instagram, and please write down your name and my Borna Kazerani Show and show it to me. Oh my god, I love it.
Yeah, of course.
It's beautiful. It looks very much like me.
I love doing portraits.
I love it. It was very cool.
It's my favorite thing to do is to draw.
Of course. Okay. Where is it? Show me again. Show me again. I want to see it again. I look like a soldier. I love it. Please send it to me. I loved it. So thank you very much, Jason. I really enjoyed my conversation with you. Did you like our conversation?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Anytime. You're very talented, and I want to support people like you, and I love it. And I can't wait to meet you in reality, in person.
Same. Yeah, come visit New York when you finally do that trip.
Well, yeah, the borders are all closed, so I can't try no one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm talking about 2021.
Absolutely. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up. So, do you want to say goodbye to those who are watching us now and later?
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching.
All right, take care. Show me again. I loved it. All right. Take care, Jason. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.